Hello, this is Mr. Chance, and in this short video, we're going to look briefly at prepositions. While your English textbook, Grammar for Writing, is a wonderful textbook, it shares a common flaw with just about every grammar textbook I've ever used in over the past 2 decades. I've used a few. In that it does not address prepositions early enough in the school year. And I understand why this happens. Prepositions are complicated. And generally speaking, it's a good idea to do easy stuff first, harder stuff later when we're learning how to do something. As the cliche says, you have to learn how to crawl before you can learn how to run. Okay, so that seems fair. But prepositions, while they are complicated, can also be really confusing to things that happen early on in grammar sequences. So for example, we haven't started this quite yet in grammar this year, it only being, August. But we're going to start having to identify the subjects of sentences, the simple subject of a sentence. And that can get tricky with prepositional phrases. And so I'm going to eventually end up giving you a list of 40 or so prepositions that I'm going to ask you to put in your ELA binder, your 3-ring binder, and I'm going to ask you to memorize those prepositions. One of the problems with prepositions is most of the time you know it's a preposition because you know it's a preposition, right? You need to know them when you see them. So in any event, but we're not quite there yet. So, but let's look at what I'm talking about here. Every word in a sentence answers a question. And if we know what questions to ask, it makes it easier to figure out what a word is doing and what that word's function and part of speech are. Okay, so limited number of questions, a lot of words, limited number of questions. So let's look at this wonderful sentence. In the deep and dark forest primeval, savage packs of wolves howled in anticipation of the hunt. Ooh, scary. All right, so here we go. Now, what has often happened to me in the past is I would give students a sentence somewhat similar to this, maybe not quite this long and complicated, and ask them to find the subject and the verb. And at least half the students in the class, well, almost all of the students would be able to tell me that the verb is howled, right? Howled. It's the action, right? What's the action? Howled. Things are howling. And then they would tell me that the subject is wolves, because what's doing the howling? Well, wolves howl, and that's wrong. The subject of this sentence is not wolves. So let us watch. This is how I'm going to have you every now and then classify sentences. And when we classify a sentence, what we're doing is we're identifying the different parts of the sentence and the function that those parts have. Okay, and first thing we do when we classify a sentence is we identify and eliminate the prepositional phrases. All right, so in this sentence, let me get an arrow so I can point. In this sentence, there are a few prepositions. In is a preposition. Of is a preposition. In is still a preposition. And of is still a preposition. All right, so I have two different prepositions, in and of, each one being used 2 times. All right, cool. Now that I've done that, I look at my preposition, I look at my first preposition, in, and I say, in what? Forest primeval. Forest primeval. That's my prepositional phrase. A prepositional phrase starts with a preposition and it ends, well, this one's a little backwards. It actually ends in an adjective, but it ends in a noun or an object pronoun. All right. In the deep and dark forest primeval. Boom. That's gone. We don't need it. Right? Now, when it comes to labeling things, prepositions are labeled with a P. Objects of prepositions are labeled with an OP. It's a very clever system that I have here, right? So, boom, forest, primeval. Technically just forest. All right, boom. All right, then of is a preposition. Of what? Of wolves. Of wolves. Got to get rid of it. All right, now here's the catch. Anything that is a anything in a prepositional phrase can never be the subject of a sentence. Right? So wolves can't be the subject. Can't be. It just doesn't work that way. Right? Of is a preposition, wolves is an object of the preposition. P and OP. Right? Next we have in what? In anticipation. That's gone. Of what? Of the hunt. That's gone. We're left with 3 words. Now I ask, what's the verb? Well, the verb is still howled. That hasn't changed. What howls? Packs. Howl. That's the subject. Because anything that's part of the prepositional phrase can't be the subject. And then savage is an adjective. We'll do more on adjectives later. All right? So, prepositions. I'm going to give you a list. You memorize them. We'll practice classifying sentences in addition doing the stuff that's in your Grammar for Writing textbook. Outstanding. This just sounds like so much fun. I think. Maybe. Maybe not. In any event, that's it for this video. Like I said, no notes to take this time or anything like that. We'll cover this in a little more detail in class. I'll probably do a follow-up video for this later on after we've addressed some more complicated topics such as compound subjects, compound verbs, and things like that. We'll see. In any event, thank you. I'll see you in the next video.